The rain was merciless that night, a curtain of cold water that blurred the streetlights into streaks of gold and gray. Inside a fading diner on the corner of Main Street, a man named Jack Sullivan sat hunched over a half-empty coffee cup, staring into its dark surface as if it held all the answers he'd lost. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened, and his face, once full of confidence, now carried the tired lines of a man who'd been beaten down by life. Just a week ago, Jack had been an architect with a promising career. Today, he was unemployed, nearly broke, and wondering where it had all gone wrong. The company he'd given 5 years to had downsized without warning, and his position was among the first to go. He spent the last few days walking miles in the rain, going door to door with his resume, only to hear polite rejections and hollow smiles. That night, sitting alone in the diner, he felt invisible, just another face lost in the noise of a city that had no time for broken dreams. He stirred his cold coffee absent-mindedly until a voice broke the silence. "Rough night?" He looked up. A young waitress stood before him. Her name tag read Anna Bright. Her hair was pulled back into a loose bun, her uniform a bit faded, and her sneakers were soaked from the rain. But her smile, soft, genuine, and kind, cut through the gloom like a ray of light. Without waiting for a reply, she refilled his cup and said, "On the house." Jack tried to protest, but she waved him off. "You look like you need it more than we do." Her tone wasn't pitying, just warm, human. That was enough to make his throat tighten. If you believe that kindness and second chances still matter in this world, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let's remind everyone that compassion can change lives. As Anna moved from table to table, Jack noticed how she carried herself, tired but never defeated. She greeted every customer with the same quiet grace, refilled cups before anyone asked, and offered smiles even when no one returned them. When Jack finished his modest meal, just a burger and coffee, he reached into his wallet and sighed. He had only a few crumpled bills left, barely enough to cover the bill. Still, he placed a single dollar under the saucer as a tip. It wasn't much. In truth, it was almost insulting, but it was all he had. He mumbled a quiet thank you to Anna and stepped out into the rain. He didn't look back. That dollar, that single small act, would come to mean far more than he could have imagined. The days that followed were brutal. Jack slept on a friend's couch, skipped meals to save what little money he had left, and battled the constant voice in his head whispering that he'd failed. Every morning, he woke with the same question: what's the point? One evening, as he trudged past the diner again, he noticed the lights still on and the same soft glow spilling onto the wet sidewalk. Something pulled him inside. Maybe it was hunger. Maybe it was the memory of a kind smile. Anna was there, still working her shift. When she saw him, her face lit up. "Hey, you came back," she said, as if greeting an old friend. Without being asked, she brought him a cup of coffee. Still on the house, she smiled. He tried to refuse, but she insisted. "You look like you could use it." They talked a little that night. Not much, just enough. Jack learned she was studying part-time at a community college, working double shifts to take care of her younger brother after their parents had passed. Life had been unkind to her, but she refused to let it make her bitter. In her, Jack saw something he had lost: hope. Over the next few weeks, he came by the diner often, even when he couldn't afford much. Some nights he'd just sit at the counter, nursing a cup of coffee while Anna hummed quietly as she worked. She always had a smile, a kind word, or a joke ready, small things that somehow kept Jack going when nothing else could. Then one night, after a long silence, Jack confessed, "I'm leaving the city tomorrow. Got a lead on a job in another state." Anna smiled, not sadly, but proudly. "Then go for it," she said. "You deserve a fresh start." Before leaving, Jack wrote a short note on a napkin. "Thank you for reminding me that good people still exist." He folded it neatly, tucked a $20 bill under his cup, the last money he had, and walked out into the night, unaware that this would be the last time he'd ever see her. 2 years passed. Jack rebuilt his life, one brick at a time. The job worked out. He worked hard, saved, and even started his own small architectural firm. On the surface, he had everything he'd lost and more. But there was one thing that stayed with him, the memory of that waitress who'd shown him kindness when he was at his lowest. He often thought about her, wondering if she'd graduated, if her brother was okay, if she ever knew how much she'd helped him, without even realizing it. Then, one rainy afternoon, eerily similar to that night years ago, Jack drove through his old neighborhood. To his surprise, the diner still stood there, though its windows were boarded and its sign faded. It looked abandoned. Something compelled him to stop. He pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. Dust floated in the light pouring through the cracks. The air smelled of emptiness, the ghost of coffee and old memories. And then he saw it, a small display near the counter, covered in dust but still standing. It was a newspaper clipping, laminated and pinned to the wall. The headline froze him. Local waitress dies in car accident while delivering food to homeless shelter. Jack's breath caught. The photo below the headline showed Anna, smiling, bright, exactly as he remembered her. The article said she had been on her way to drop off meals for homeless families when a speeding truck hit her car. She was just 24. She left behind her younger brother and a legacy of kindness. That had inspired her regular customers to create a small charity fund in her name, the Anna Bright Foundation. Jack sank onto a nearby stool, his chest tight. Beneath the article was a napkin, carefully framed, his handwriting. "Thank you for reminding me that good people still exist." His hands trembled. That note, something he'd written in passing, had been preserved, honored. He didn't realize he was crying until his tears hit the counter. That moment changed everything. A few months later, the old diner opened its doors again, not as a business, but as a community cafe for people in need. Meals were free, the walls were bright and welcoming, and right by the entrance, a plaque hung that read, "In loving memory of Anna Bright, the light that never went out." Jack Sullivan stood before it, tears in his eyes and a small, peaceful smile on his face. He had bought and rebuilt the diner himself, turning it into a place of hope, just as Anna had once given him hope when he had nothing left. Now every evening he volunteered there. He served meals, refilled coffee cups, and listened to stories, just as Anna once had. One evening a young man walked in, soaked from the rain, looking lost and tired, the same way Jack had once looked. When the boy finished his meal and reached for his wallet, Jack smiled and said softly, "Don't worry about it. This one's on the house." The boy blinked, eyes glassy. "Thank you, sir. You don't know what that means to me." Jack smiled. "Actually," he said quietly, "I do." If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's spread kindness and remind the world that no good deed ever goes unnoticed. Before you go, tell me in the comments, have you ever received or given a small act of kindness that changed your life? I'd love to read your story below. That night, after everyone had gone, Jack stood outside the cafe under the soft drizzle. The rain was calm, gentle, almost like a blessing. He looked up at Anna's photo inside the window, her smile still warm, still alive in every corner of that place. He whispered, "You deserve the world, Anna. I hope this is a small piece of it." The rain continued to fall, not as sorrow, but as a quiet reminder that even in the darkest storms, one small act of kindness can ripple across lifetimes. Because sometimes, the people who seem to have the least to give are the ones who give the most.